So welcome to our special interview today here with Dr. Tabor Smith, and he is a chiropractor practicing out of Texas. And I'm just super excited to have him here with us today, as he is someone who we've known each other for it's like 7 years now, I think.
Yeah, a long time now. So
Yeah. And he's just been absolutely amazing with his practice, with growing it. And going to get to hear from him about growing his practice from zero to over 300 patients a week in 18 months.
yeah,
And then get to hear about um, also how to get interest in your practice without even having to be be in front of camera or do all kinds of those things that feel like it's
sure.
all exhausting. And then you'll get to hear from him about some projects that he's up to, which I think is just so cool because he's really changed the face of the chiropractic profession. And I know those of you here are acupuncturists, chiropractors, naturopathic doctors, and functional medicine practitioners as well. And I believe you can get a glimpse into what it's like to really have a vision and then be inspired by how he was able to carry that through some different projects he's working on, including most recently a film documentary, which can actually be impactful for all holistic practices, actually. And
Sure.
so, yeah, so super excited to have Taper here with us today. So welcome.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here, and I'm just going to be like an open book, wide open, and would love to share any information that's helpful for anybody that's listening.
Awesome. So yeah, so tell us a little bit about your
Sure.
your practice and when you
So
get started.
yeah, so one of the things, when I say 300 visits a week, a lot of people think that that's a lot, and don't realize that my wife is a practicing chiropractor as well. So that's between the two of us, and sometimes we actually go over that number, but we've been able to fluctuate right around 300 visits with both of us seeing patients, and wasn't always like that. So I graduated from Parker in Dallas and got a job as an associate in Amarillo, Texas. And this was an amazing experience because it was one of the largest chiropractic offices in the state of Texas. And I was just a sponge trying to soak up like everything I could learn from the chiropractor who was there, Dr. Shane Hand. He actually still practices there. I consider him a mentor. And so I tried to not only learn, their systems and how they got new patients and how we got great results for patients. Um, but one of the things that I learned was how to do, talks or screenings or just really kind of give the community a chance to come in to for a new patient exam or for some kind of experience in our office. And I think that was the most valuable thing. And I'll share, how we did that and how we grew that. But I think marketing to me is just like giving the community a chance to come in and see what we have to offer in our office. And that was the most valuable piece of information that we got from doing an associateship. But then when my wife and I moved here to Houston, it's been 11 years ago, then we started our own practice. And boy, I have some big stories for you there when we get to that point.
Yeah. And so I know, and some of our listeners might also be kind of curious too, because we're going to talk about also how do you actually get patients without having to speak to anyone too, but
Yeah.
because that's
Oh,
kind of,
absolutely. Which is what we do now.
yeah. But so tell us a little bit about that journey. I think we had a question from someone. And by the way, those of you listening in right now, feel free to type it in the chat any of your questions and we'll look at working it in today as well. So some of you had asked questions ahead of time, and someone asked, what was it like to like what were some of the marketing strategies that you used at the
Sure.
beginning when it was just a vision to grow your practice?
Yeah. So some of the marketing strategies we use to get from 0 to 300, in today's day and age, you actually kind of have to change and shift, right? And we don't use those exact strategies that we used back then because it just in the pandemic world we live in, they don't work. And so, we can talk about those strategies. In fact, that's good for somebody who's an introvert, because you have a lot better system to market in today's day and age, because nobody wants to be, face to face with somebody, right? And so I'll talk about those systems as well. But a quick, kind of crazy story for you. When we were getting started, when we moved to Houston, and by the way, we didn't borrow any money. I noticed that was like somebody's question as well earlier. Start a business without any experience. How do you do that? Well, my mentor, Dr. Shane Hand, he said, look, keep your overhead low. Don't borrow money unless you absolutely have to. And so what I did, as an associate, was just save my money. I bought, the equipment I thought I was going to need. I tried to buy it, used or eBay or all those types of things as I was working as an associate. And my wife and I were able to save up about 10 grand, maybe a little bit more than that. And we rented a office inside of another chiropractic office. He gave me a deal. I could rent one room for $1,000 a month. And so we had that office, and we grew that practice. Well, first of all, what we did is we didn't know anybody in Houston. And so my wife's parents, and we asked them, we said, we're going to do a kind of a dinner party to, like, what is it called? A grand opening to kick off the office, right? And we asked her parents to invite all of her friends and family and everybody we knew in Houston, which wasn't very many people. And we went around to their tables during the dinner party and gave them an opportunity to come in for an exam in our office. That was the only big marketing thing we did to kick it off. But our conversions for that dinner were probably better than any other dinner we've ever done, because people just kind of wanted to help us get started. So we start our practice. I think we're doing great because we have a few patients coming in. And unfortunately, that was back when, online credit card stuff, we didn't really understand it, and it wasn't as secure as it is today. And we were using an online credit card service where somehow somebody from Russia or something hacked our computer in our office, and the patients who were coming in, they back charged all of their credit cards that we had on file and stole all the money out of our account. So
Wow.
here we had about 10 grand, maybe a little bit more than that now, because we had a few patients who signed up, and somebody stole all of it, including charging their credit cards. So it was horrible.
Like
And I
bizarre.
thought, yeah. So, I mean, talk about panic, talk about thinking, what am I doing starting a business? This is going to fail. I was like, we're going to go bankrupt, and I'm going to have to get it. And my back, to fall back on, my plan B was always I could go back and be an associate again and get a job working for another chiropractor, but I didn't want to do that. But I knew that I probably could. And since this happened, I thought, wow, there's no way we're going to come back from this. Now, the FDIC at that time, they did insure the money, but we didn't get paid back for that for 9 months
Wow.
after that happened. So here's what I did. I said, you know what? I told my wife, I said, and this, in hindsight, that was probably good for me, because it kind of lit a fire underneath me, right? To do something. I said, the only thing I know how to do is spinal screenings. And, I know how to do maybe a dinner workshop because I sat through the other chiropractor doing it once, but I didn't have anybody to invite to a dinner. So what I did, told my wife, I said, I'm just going to work as hard as I possibly can to get new patients. Every single moment I have and I'm not in the office, I'm going to go try to find a gym or a vitamin shop or a grocery store or some place that will let me set up a booth and do a spinal screening. And I said, I'm going to work as hard as I can. And then if it fails and I have to go to work, at least I won't be able to say I didn't try my hardest, right? And so I did that. I mean, almost every day, except for the full days that I was inside the office, I had somewhere to go to do a spinal screening. And what I decided to do was create a drawing, like a Dropbox, like a free dinner drawing. And so I would go to the gym and I would put out my spinal screening stuff with my spine and my table, and I would have a Dropbox. And I said, win a free dinner at, this local restaurant, which I wanted to do a dinner workshop at, right? And I would screen these people's spines, try to sign them up for new patients. The ones that didn't, I would have them enter my drawing, and I would call them back later that night and tell them, hey, we're having a dinner workshop next Thursday. Would you like to come? And so I would fill up my dinner workshops with the people who didn't sign up at my spinal screenings. And then every once in a while, we'd get new patients to come in from the spinal screenings. And I hustled. And with that, with doing spinal screenings and dinner workshops, we were able to grow our practice within that 9 months. We finally got paid back from the FDIC it was insured. We had already built up to about 100, 150 a week in that time span. And we actually had to move out of that little one room that we were renting, and we had to rent our own office. And then it just exploded from there.
So yeah, what I love about what you just shared, even though some of you might be thinking, wait, how is this relevant? Because spinal screenings you can't do now, or dinner talks
Right.
you can't do,
Right.
kind of thing. Well, Tabor and I will talk a little bit about that in a moment in terms of pivoting. But what I love about what you shared is this intensity, right? It's like this determination of, you know what, I'm just going to do what it takes. And I
Yeah.
think that as an entrepreneur, being a successful entrepreneur, it takes grit. And I think that sometimes some practitioners actually come into practice without really realizing what it takes on a certain level. Would you
I
agree?
agree.
Have you seen that? Like it's
Yeah.
almost like being blinded by whether it's this law kind of thing, like I'm going
Sure.
to graduate and everything's going to be great, or I've
You
been in
know,
practice and I should already be seeing more patients just because I'm a good clinician, and it doesn't
exactly.
always work that way, right?
Yeah, and that's a difference from a practice owner, or somebody who may just go and get a job. Is that job might be out there, but for the entrepreneurs who are listening, like, instead of just opening a door or hanging up a shingle, which hopefully if you get lucky and patients just come in, that's great. But a lot of times, you, as an entrepreneur, no matter what business you're in, you have to fight for it. You really do. And sometimes more than others, right? I mean, some years more than others, as we saw in 2020. And sometimes that can get monotonous. It could get heavy. You don't always feel like fighting for it. Um that's the I think that's the weight that we carry as entrepreneurs. It's like, it's a benefit cost. It's like, I would rather be my own boss so that nobody tells me what to
Yeah.
do, and I'd rather go out there and hit the streets trying as hard as I could to be my own boss. Then that's just who I am on the inside. Not that having a job is bad, um, but I think that's just a little bit of a difference there.
Yes, and it's the intensity because for like you're an introvert, right, Tabor?
Right. I am. It was hard, but I also, like, I think, what is that saying where it says, I don't even know, the weight of regret, like, I didn't want to just quit and give up and then have that always weighing on me that I didn't give it everything I had, and so that drive pulled me out enough to say, okay, I'm going to walk into this store and ask them if I can set up a table here, and it
Mhm.
and it wasn't like I was in front of a million people. I wasn't, but sometimes it takes some courage just to go in and ask that one person, if you can work with them.
Yes, and the thing is, and those of you listening, you might be wondering, well, how does this apply now? And well, to
Oh,
bring up a couple things, even with what just Tabor talked about. For one, you know, dinner talks, there are still actually parts of the country where people are doing dinner talks and being successful with it. And I'm not saying that that's, you all go out and do that, but I'm just saying that's still something that is working for some people,
right.
even in this climate. And then also you could translate those skills. So one thing that's really key about what Tabor did is really aligning with how can we educate people, um, and that's done really well through things like talking or speaking. And now you could do these things virtually.
So
So, mhm.
I was just gonna say, I can't wait to tell everybody how we're doing it now, because it literally kind of like little group meetings like we're having right now using Zoom, except for we're able to educate without me having to sit up here even in front of a video. And my office, by the way, when I learned that we could grow with spinal screenings and dinner workshops, that kind of, I don't know, it kind of evolved into us doing business lunch and learns, and so we got really good at this system that we created in our office, where a new patient would come in, we would sign them up for a care plan, and then on their next visit, when they started their treatment in our office, we would ask if we could come and do a workshop at their place of business. And so that was really that, because I didn't like doing spinal screenings all the time. I would if I had to save my business, but I didn't like doing them. And so what I did like better is if I could just spend 20, 30 minutes kind of doing a little workshop with 5 or 10 people at their business, that was okay. And I also found that that was a really good way to get new patients in. So that was the lifeblood of my practice.
How
Well,
did you
here,
approach those places? What did you say? Or, I
actually,
mean, or your patients, I mean.
yeah, so what we did is, so we do a 3-day process in our office, meaning day 1 was their exam, and then day 2 we invited them back to our office for their report of findings, and that at the report of findings, that's where we would present our recommendations for care, and then whether they would, if they accepted those recommendations, then they would be a patient. If they didn't accept those recommendations, they wouldn't be a patient, right? So day 3, that means they accepted our recommendations and they were starting their care plan on the 3rd day that they came back to our office. And that's when we taught them everything they needed to do in their office. We taught them about home care and spinal hygiene, our lifetime recommendations for how they should take care of their spine. And then before they left that visit, that's where we said, all the information that we have here, we'd love to be able to present that in your community, in the community. And the best way to do that a lot of times is your place of business and where you work. Do you think we'd be able to set up a workshop, or do you have somebody that we could talk to at your place of business to tell them what we do and how we could educate your employees and help decrease sick time, increase productivity, and those types of things. And it didn't work all the time, but we found that it was consistent. We'd have at least 1 or 2 a month, which really helped the new patients to keep flowing in.
That's brilliant because see, it's one of those things that you never know who your patients actually know,
Right.
and then when they're being introduced in, I mean, when you're being introduced in by a patient, it's more of a warm introduction than
Right.
just
Oh,
calling up a company. Hello.
absolutely. And when they just started care, they're excited about their care. They're excited
Mhm.
about the office. And but here's where the tires kind of screeched to a halt, was when that's our lifeblood of new patients, and then here comes the lockdown, right?
Mhm.
And now no one's going to let me in their business to do a workshop.
So how'd you
And
pivot?
yeah, so it actually worked really well. We thought, if we're doing workshops in front of people, at their business, wonder if we could start to do workshops online, and I guess technically they call them webinars now, right? But so we decided, look, education's education, and how you present it is just a different vehicle. Somebody could get it from a video, somebody could get it from a live workshop like this, somebody could get it from a live workshop in person in our office, right? And so the vehicle needed to change because we could no longer get inside local businesses. And since we had Zoom, and all the businesses are switching to Zoom anyway, then we thought, look, let's start a excuse me, let's start a monthly workshop that we do, and we'll invite all of our patients to that workshop because we're teaching about spinal health, and we'll also encourage them to invite their friends and family to that workshop. And we do those live, but when we created the documentary, we now do those just by playing either the movie, which is an hour-and-a-half feature-length film. So we invite them to movie night, and all we have to do is play a movie, a virtual movie. Or we actually have a lot of individual interviews from people who were in the movie. So they're 20 minutes or 30 minutes, or sometimes they're like little small movies, like we call them featurettes, and they're only 12 minutes. And so we can actually invite our patients to a live, viewing of these interviews where they're learning about chiropractic, they're learning about natural health and wellness. And then at the end of the interview, so I didn't have to say a word, I didn't have to give a presentation or prep. At the end, I get on just like we're right here and just say, I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you so much for being here. I want to invite you all to come in for an exam in our office. It's only this much if you schedule tonight, and here is the phone number to call. And it's all completely virtual, all done with the press of a button, and it's easier on me. I did get to do it from home, and as soon as I get done, I go out and play with my kids. So it's been working really well.
Yes, you've got what, 3 kids?
I do. 3 little boys. Twins are 6 years old, and the
Oh,
oldest is 11.
still little.
Yeah.
And so then that's so awesome. And tell everybody a little bit about the film. What got
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
inspired to produce this, and who are some people you're collaborating with on it, and
Yeah.
what's it about?
Right. I appreciate that opportunity. So, um, for the past 13 years of practicing, it's been a real passion of mine to teach what I call it spinal hygiene, or I call it lifetime spinal care. And the concept around that is just like, I think dentistry has done an amazing job of teaching us how to take care of our teeth for a lifetime. And it wasn't always like this. Like, you look in the history books, excuse me, back in the early 1900s, people, they had to go to the dentist, but usually it was because their teeth were rotting and they had to get their teeth pulled, right? And so there was a dentist by the name of Dr. Alfred Phones. He's now known as the father of dental hygiene. He was the first one to start a dental hygienist program to really start to teach people about brushing and flossing. And they got into schools and they taught our kids how important it was to take care of their teeth. And so that's always been a passion of mine, because in today's day and age, we're seeing more spinal decay and spinal degeneration happening at younger and younger ages than we've ever seen before. And a lot of times, we attribute that, not always, there may be some genetic role that's played in there, but a lot of times it's because of sedentary lifestyles, poor postures. We're in front of, computer screens or cell phones that we're looking at all the time. And it's just getting worse, especially now after 2020. And this poor posture that we're in all the time is causing the spine to degenerate at younger ages and faster rates. And so that I've been trying to teach people, here's what a healthy spine is, here's what's important, and we do that in our office. But I was fortunate enough to have one of the owners of the largest videography company in the state of Texas as a patient. And so he said, hey, look, we do websites. And I said, I need a new website. So he's like, why don't you come into our office and we'll talk about your website. So I said, great. Well, when I showed up at his office, he was having a special meeting, and they do short films and they do documentaries. And they were meeting with a natural healthcare practitioner out of California. And they were talking about a documentary that they were wanting to get to Netflix on, and I think it was something on nutraceuticals or something like that. But I just heard it as I was walking past the door. And I stopped and I waited till their meeting was over. And I went in there and saw my patient. His name is Clay. And I said, Clay, do you have 10 minutes? Let me pitch you something, right? And he said, sure. So I sat down with him. I said, look, there is a silent epidemic going on right now in our society, like spines decaying at younger age. There was a study that was produced out from Scottish researchers that showed that they took 154 10-year-olds. These were asymptomatic 10-year-olds, so no pain, put them through an MRI machine, and they showed that 9% of 10-year-olds have the beginning stages of spinal degeneration or arthritis starting, and they contributed it to sedentary lifestyles and poor postures that our kids are in
Wow,
more and
9-year-olds.
more. Yeah, exactly. And so I was telling Clay, look, nobody's doing anything about this. We're waiting until somebody is in their, 20s or 30s and they're diagnosed with arthritis, and then they're put on a medication, and then they just have to stay on that until maybe it gets bad enough for a surgery or something like that. Like, we're not doing anything to prevent this. Like, where dentistry did a great job of saying, hey, if you want to prevent tooth decay, you got to start young. You got to start taking care of your teeth. There are things you can do at home. Yes, you should have a dentist on your health team, right? But there are things that you can do at your responsibility to take care of your teeth. Anyway, as I explained that to him, he was like, that sounds great. That's not being done. Everybody loves healthcare documentaries. And so it kind of blossomed from there. Now, if you watch the movie, the film is called A Better Way. And that concept of really focusing on spinal degeneration exploded. I mean, the film is about so much more than that, because when we really started to interview these professionals, healthcare practitioners, people who have changed their lifestyle and changed their life, it was about more than just the spine decaying at early ages. It's actually about misinformation that we're getting as a society, and we're kind of taught to reach for a quick fix to cover up a symptom instead of addressing a cause of a problem. And this is not just a social way of thinking. This is bigger. This is in 60 commercials a day that our kids are seeing, right? And so anyway, there's a big conspiracy going on to I believe, brainwash us into grabbing that quick fix instead of really focusing on what's improving health. And that's what the documentary kind of jumps into.
So it really evolved into
It did.
more,
Yeah, which is why I feel like I say this, but I feel like I was supposed to be there in his office at that moment. I feel like there was a plan. God had a plan in the message, and he wanted to speak it through that movie, because there was no way that I could have interviewed the people that I did. I got to go to Hyannisport, Massachusetts, to the Kennedy compound and sit down with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and interview him about the, corruption going on in our pharmaceutical energy industry. And then other experts, Josh Axe, he's in the film, and just never would have got those contacts had it not be for God opening doors, and just the way the movie came together. I really feel like there's a message there that needs to be told, and I'm fortunate to be one of the people involved in delivering that message.
Just got chills, like providence, right? And
I felt
being,
like it is.
I mean, I feel like it, for what you just brought up too is just so great about how you followed your guidance. You were at that door, you're like, next, hearing that, and then you thought, okay, I'm just going to share this, right?
Yeah,
And without
right.
even thinking about it, and sharing and getting someone really excited about it. So, and now it's there, which is so cool. What is the website, just so that everybody can check it out as well?
So the website is abetterwayfilm.com.
I'm going to just type that in the chat for everyone. By the way,
Yeah.
those of you who are here live, definitely introduce yourself as far as your profession, name, profession, where you're from as well, and any questions for Tabor.
Looks
So
like
that,
David said we got a few Parker alumni here, so that's great.
yes,
Yeah,
fellow, awesome.
it's a good school.
And then, so I love what you said about this film being really about that, and because it is something that um, you're okay with other practitioners sharing with their patients
For
in
sure.
something like a Zoom room, right? Like,
Right, absolutely. And when you like, you can purchase the film for like $30, but you get way more than just the film. You also get, all the interviews that we did. So there was with RFK, with Josh Axe, with David Erb from Dallas, with Dr. Gilles Marsh, who's one of the vice presidents of public relations at Life University. I mean, just amazing 4K interviews done, high definition. And so the public, they might watch the movie, most of them probably haven't seen it. So when you do a movie night, and you can do a virtual movie night, it's really a big draw, especially the first couple of times that you do it. And it teaches them about natural health, about why they need to start asking questions about their health and their diagnosis, and looking deeper into finding that answer. So the film, I actually want all my patients to watch the film. Even I had this, we had these little, I don't know if you can see them, but they're little cards, and we put a promo code right here, and it gives them a free rental. So any of the practitioners who purchase the film, you get a free rental code, and you can have 500 rental codes that you can actually put on a card, or whatever you want to do. You can give it to a patient to watch. And I do that with our new patients if they've never seen it, because I find, if they came in for an exam, and then I want to educate them. Like, I used to do doctor's reports. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of doctor's reports, but what that is 3 nights a week. I used to stay at my office. 7 p.m. is when it started, and I would talk until about almost 8 p.m., right? And then we would go over their films. And it was so late that we would stay at the office. Well, number one, I didn't want to do that anymore. But number two, you can't really do that anymore, have those big classes and things at your office. So what we do is we have patients who come in for their new patient exam, and I say, hey, can you watch this film before you come back for your report of findings? It'll really show you a lot about what we do here in our office. And then I give them that free rental code. And so it's almost like a virtual report of findings. They come back to see their x-rays and to understand why they need care in the office, and they've already been educated through this film. So it ended up working out really well for us there.
yeah, that's wonderful. And so wanted to ask you a little bit about practice wise, because I realized that there are a couple other questions that from earlier that people had. So I was just going to ask you,
Sure.
how do you accommodate 300 visits a week? How do you maintain that figure? How do you get
Sure.
patients to return and keep coming? Any advice
Yep.
on that as well?
Well, and I think that I think your model is going to kind of dictate the amount of patients you visits you have per week. So, when I hear somebody say 50 visits a week, they may be doing the same financial volume as somebody doing 300. Just depends on what their model is. And so my model is what I call a structural or corrective care, and then we move people into a wellness based care, which I noticed one of the questions from earlier was um, how do you keep patients coming back? And that's through our education, right? But when they start, we want to get them in through a corrective care plan, and we've kind of created a very fluid, very smooth system in our office where patients come in. They actually have a card. So once they start care and we get them down, we schedule their visits, they get this little key card. It's kind of like, I don't know if you have guys have Kroger's where you're from, but here in Texas, you get these little these little cards that you put on your keychain, and when you check out, you zip them and you get a discount sometimes, right? So we have those little cards, and the software that we use allows them to kind of check in that way. So they don't have to stop at the desk and write their name down to check in. They just come in and they scan in, and they're able to come over, and we have different bays where they could get adjusted. And as soon as they scan in, their file automatically comes up for me. So it's really handy, really
Where'd
smooth.
you
And
get those key cards, by the way?
so we use the software that we use is Genesis Chiropractic software, and they actually recommended the key cards for us. And I don't know if we purchased them through them or whatever through link that they recommended, but I think you can even get those through Amazon, but you just have to make sure that your software will
Got it.
process them and allow them. I mean, it cuts time. So that's the thing. It cuts so much time
Mhm.
off their visit. And so the flow might go that they scan in, they come in, they might take a bay, area where they're going to get adjusted. I have their x-rays, I have their files, I know exactly their patterns and where they need to be adjusted at when I come in. And then I'll just ask them, how they're feeling, if they notice any changes between the last visit or this one, but everything's real smooth. And then once they get their adjustment, they move over to our rehab area, but it's also set up in stations that makes it very easy and quick for patients, whether they need traction, where they have a reverse posture exercise station, or whether we have vibration platforms that they may do exercises on. And they're taught the first couple of visits, they're taught what stations they need to go to and what exercises they need to do. And then I just have a rehab tech that's watching them in that room and able to help them. And so they can check in, they can get adjusted, they can get their exercises done, and they can be out the door sometimes in 20-30 minutes, just because of the system that we've created in our office around the model that we practice. So not everybody's going to practice that model, but I do think it's important to figure out your model and then set up the systems and the flow in your practice to make sure that patients aren't there for hours at a time. Because what I find is people appreciate the way that our flow is created. They're not pushed through like cattle, right? But there's a system, and they can see the system, and they know that I've worked hard on making sure that that system flows like it should.
Yes, because if inefficiency can be very costly
Yeah.
for the practice and patients' overall experience,
Mm-hmm.
and for, as you or whoever's listening is a provider, right?
Right.
It's like,
We actually 2 years ago, maybe it was a little longer than that ago, but we remodeled our office to really, really improve the flow. Before, there were hallways that people had to walk down, and it worked, but it just wasn't perfect. And we remodeled our office to make it perfect, and it really, it really works well now.
awesome. And when someone was asking, how much time per day did you spend building your practice, not counting seeing patients?
That's a great question. In the beginning, hours. And that's what I focused 100% on, almost in the beginning. I just made sure I was there at the office when people had their times and that they were scheduled for, but we didn't have a lot of patients in the beginning. So the other hours, probably 4 or 5 hours a day, I was going to either stores, or actually what I did back then too is I didn't have any social media pages anywhere. And it wasn't like it is now, but there was still, I think there was LinkedIn and Facebook, and there's probably MySpace back then. But what I did was I said, look, I want to be at least, there needs to be at least a quote unquote business card on every single social media platform, every single website that I could think of. And so I created my profiles on everything, probably some platforms that don't even exist today, but I created a business profile on them because I just wanted anybody who was just surfing or looking or typing in our name to be able to find it on Google. And so, I encourage that. If you don't have, say you don't have an Instagram, or you don't have a LinkedIn, or you don't have a Facebook, like just create one, because somebody might be able to find you that way.
And someone's asking, so David's asking, as I'm in the process of converting at this point in my career to a fully virtual functional medicine practice, can you please elucidate on how the film might be used in that type of a practice model of functional medicine?
Oh, that would be perfect, David. You've got to see that film. Two functional medicine doctors. Number one, Josh Axe, who is in there, who is a functional medicine doctor, and he talks a lot about that. But number two, Dr. Patrick Krupka, and he is an amazing functional medicine doctor that we interviewed. And so, with the content that you get with the movie, there's a lot of content that's based on functional medicine practitioners actually giving that and talking about that. So I think that would work really well with patients in the interviews that we did with them.
Yes, because one of the things about this is that when it comes to attracting patients in your practice, one very key thing to make sure patients understand is why they like that they've got an issue and why they need you. And
Yeah.
so the film is bringing that up in such a way that it's through different experts and then I'm sure also, it's much typically also um, there's cinematography to where there's more emotion, right? People are
Right.
like
Right.
feeling that and more. So then it helps people be educated and then also be an understanding and feel that desire as well because they
Yeah.
get it more, you know.
Well,
So
and I think for any type of natural healthcare practitioner, the film helps your patients see that it's not always about a chemical or a pill or a surgery. Like there are other options out there. And I think the first step is getting someone to realize that there are other options out there that really do help and save people's lives all the time and help them create a better life. And we've interviewed people who talk about that and show you that, look, I tried everything. It didn't work. I was able to, get with some practitioners who really were able to work with me to find the cause of my problem, correct the cause of my problem. And now I'm so thankful, right? And so when your patients see that, whether they're talking about chiropractic or they're talking about functional medicine or some other uh, natural solution, like at least it's going to open their mind to be able to start to go to that journey, right? That's where you want them going.
and so tell us a little bit more about also the way your other project, which is, well, you started to talk about it a little bit, which is the spinal hygiene project and how you were able to work things out in collaboration with
Yeah.
Life University and really share it with more people. Tell us a little bit about your vision. Certainly you brought up a little bit about the vision, not a little bit, but you did talk about your vision earlier. Like it's like
Sure.
dentists have
Yep.
that
Yep.
already in the profession and then bring this to chiropractic. And so tell us a little bit more about that
Yeah. So I was actually in
and
a
we'll take some more questions also after that.
yeah. So I was actually at a mastermind group that I went to in Puerto Rico, and it just so happened that Dr. Gilles Lamarche was actually there at that same mastermind. He is the vice president of public relations at Life University, and I got the chance to stand up and kind of speak and tell people about that passion of mine, that story that I just mentioned, and how that I thought it was very important to teach people what a healthy spine is and how to take care of it. Because if you literally walk down the sidewalk and you ask them, what do you do to take care of your spine? Like people are going to look at you like, what are you talking about? Because we just haven't educated people about that. And so what we do is we have a very, very simple education, which is the spine should be in a good alignment. It should move through a full range of motion and the muscles around it should be strong and fit. Here are some things at home that you can do to address those areas of spinal health, right? And so Dr. Gilles, after kind of seeing me speak and hear that, he said, why don't you come to Life, talk about it, because we really do need to get this education out to the public. And what if there was, just like there's a dental hygienist who they dedicate their life to helping people keep their teeth healthy, what if we started training people in the area of spinal hygiene and maybe even certifications, which would be the certified spinal hygienist program, which is what we have at Life University. So chiropractors have been through that program, but they've also sent their CAs through that program as well. So their CAs can be able to take care of the home care in their office, and the chiropractor doesn't have to do that. And so we put together a 15-hour, it's an online class that's at Life University, and takes chiropractors through the concepts of spinal health and spinal hygiene, how we implement that in our office, because there's an entire program that is just push a button and plug it in, and you have, you know, your website, Facebook, emails, all of that's an entire educational program around educating our patients about spinal hygiene. And here's the key. Dentists, you know, one of the questions was, how do you keep people coming back to your office? Well, dentists have discovered people who actually value their teeth, they brush at home, they floss at home, they care, those are lifetime patients in a dental's office, not the person who neglects their teeth, never brushes, doesn't take care of them, like has terrible teeth and toothaches. They might need a dentist, but it's the ones who actually value their health that are lifetime patients. And that's what the dentist really, you know, that's the ideal patient for a dentist. Well, it's the same way for our spine. We, you know, sometimes as chiropractors, we're like, that guy never comes in until he's in horrible pain and his spine's all messed up, right? But we didn't educate them that there are things you should do, that you should come in for regular adjustments, that there are things that you should do at home while you're not coming in. But that's what lifetime care really is. It's having a chiropractor on your health team, but knowing how to take care of your spine at home. And when we teach that to our patients, then we become their chiropractor who's on their team, who's helping them to have great spinal health for life. And it's a different relationship than just being that person who takes care of a backache every once in a while when it pops up. Does that make sense?
Yes. And I love what you share about that. And I know that you mentioned that other kinds of practitioners are also um, learning about it too, right?
Yeah,
And sharing it with
absolutely.
their patients. And
Which is great. So we have, you know, like Dr. Patrick Krupke, who's a functional medicine doctor, and who creates the same type of environment in his office where patients may not come in as frequently for a checkup, but say, just like a dentist where you go every 6 months, you might go to a functional medicine doctor every 6 months and have blood work and check your vitamin D levels, and, you know, whatever it is that is your model of wellness, you're helping that person or that family create that model of wellness, and then you're helping them maintain that model of wellness through education and through wellness checks. And really, that's lifetime health, instead of just, you know, being that alternative solution every once in a while when there's a crisis, you know.
yeah. And I love what you see. I think one of the things that I just really like about you, Tabor, is that you're just so passionate. And it's one of those things where I think, you know, when you are this passionate and you end up being in the right situations, the right time, it's like things can just flow without, like, just like
Right.
when you were talking about the talking about it, and then the person at Life, you know, said, hey, why don't you
Yeah.
do this here, and that was not even under your radar, right?
Right, right. You know, what you just made me think of was, so I had this burning question inside of me for like ever, you know, my entire life, is like, what am I supposed to do here on this planet? Like, I know that there's a God and that there has to be a purpose for my life. And I'm like, but there's no burning bush that I come walking up to and it verbally tells me, this is your purpose, Tabor. You know what I mean? And so, like, what I found was, like, the only way I could create or figure out what that purpose was, so I could, because I like being passionate about something. Like I told people, I don't want to sell mattresses. You know, maybe I could get passionate about a mattress. If you're a mattress salesman, then I hope you're passionate about that. But like, I want to do something that I could be passionate about, and chiropractic is perfect for me to be able to do that. But I'm like, the only way that I could really find out what God maybe put on me as my purpose was to look at what I went through throughout my life. And that's one of the things that's in the movie, is how my mom passed away. She died at the age of 47, taking 21 prescription medications. And I counted them. I
Mm.
remember as you know, a young teenager sitting there with my mom's overnight case, counting prescription meds and counting 21 that she was on at the time, and realizing, like, just a light bulb went off, that obviously, if taking more medications meant you were going to be healthy, my mom would have been the healthiest person on the planet. So that could not be the answer to how to build true health and wellness, right? And so that experience that I went through, the experience of having severe back pain that shooting electrical pains down my legs, that led me to the chiropractor, that I had, you know, I'd been on muscle relaxers, anti-inflammatories, you know, all of these things that would just numb the pain every once in a while. And then I went to a chiropractor and it completely turned my life around. And that's what made me want to go to chiropractic school. And then learning that I could actually change people's entire health as a chiropractor, not just treating back pain. Like those were like this big impactful things in my life that God took me through. And I had to start believing that that meant that was supposed to be my purpose. You know what I mean? I don't know if
Mm.
that makes sense.
Yes, totally. Like noticing and like those things that happen in your life and leading to your purpose,
Absolutely.
and then speaking passionately about whatever you're feeling passionate about,
Right.
and
Yep.
that leads you in another direction towards your purpose.
Yeah. And I don't think that has to be like that for everyone. Like, for example, my wife, she's one of the chiropractors who had never even been adjusted until she got to chiropractic school. And then she got adjusted in one of the clinics and actually after she had joined chiropractic school. That's very rare, but that happens. And now she's happy being a chiropractor and passionate. It's a great career, but she's able to change people's lives. So it doesn't always have to be, crazy, amazing stories. But I do feel like whatever you've been through, sometimes we should have that obligation to help other people not have to go through that.
Yeah, and then simply sharing that is just, it's inspiring. So,
Yeah. Thank you.
um, and what, so here, Galen has a question, and those of you who have questions, feel free to type in the chat for Tabor. So Galen asks, I have a brand new practice. How would you recommend going about getting new patients and marketing myself, given the current COVID situation? I specialize in orthopedic acupuncture and have partnered with some of the local gyms, which has been helpful, but I'm looking to diversify and find other marketing avenues.
Yes. Well, this is why it's great to follow you, Chin, is to start to do things like this, to learn how to use. Okay, so here it is. This is what I'm going to be focusing on in 2021. If you get anything from this lecture, this workshop, get this. Like we all have to start transitioning into, this is what people call building a list or building a following, and it's more virtual than it ever has been before, because used to my following was my patient files, and in there I could always pull out their phone number or I could pull out their address and we could mail out mailers and stuff like that. But like today's day and age, you have to have their email address, maybe even a texting platform, but you build that by developing and giving content. Right before everybody got on, I told Chen, I was like, what I love about you is you're so consistent about delivering valuable content, always seeing something great coming from you. And like you build that's how you build the following. And so if you're just starting out today, like that needs to be the number one goal, is what do I know that is valuable for the world? Whether it's, if you're a chiropractor, you know a lot of great stuff that people need to know. If you're a physical therapist, you know a lot of great stuff that people need to know. If you're whatever practitioner or whatever, area of health that you're in, you probably know a lot more than the average person in your expertise, and people need to know that. So how could you package that up in the form of little articles? Are you a writer or are you a speaker? Like, should you be in front of a video? Are you great in front of a video, or are you better if you write it out and then edit it and have a blog or whatever it is? But you start putting your expertise in content that would be valuable for somebody, and then they'll give you that email to be able to follow you, or their phone number, or they'll be on a workshop, or they'll watch your movie night, or and that is how, in my opinion, you got to start marketing in 2021, because it's no longer me knocking on a door, trying to set up a spinal screening booth, or going to a business to do a lunch and learn. It's doing workshops online. It's creating videos, posting amazing, like you could go to Fiverr and you could create images that are post worthy for Instagram and Facebook that people like and they like to share and they like to learn from. But doing that, you're always growing your following. People are coming to learn things from you. And then what I've seen is when they do that, then they'll start coming into your office to seeing what you can do for them after they see the valuable information that you have to share there. I don't know.
Yes, and what's really cool is that it's also a what happened this year is also, it's like also a blessing too. People are more interested in their health. People
Yeah,
are also more open to
right.
um, learning it in an online platform.
And let me tell you this. So one of the ways we've been growing our email list and our following, and I send out an email to them every week, letting them know what's going on in the office, is by doing these types of Zoom calls where we show the movie or we show an interview, because Zoom will allow you to collect their name and email when they register for your event. And so every time they do that, then I take those emails and put them into, we use Aweber, which is just an email software, right? But every time we do a workshop or a movie night or whatever it is online, I'm growing that following. And that I found that is the best way to start growing that following, is to get people to start registering for a workshop.
Awesome. So then any other questions for Tabor? Feel free to type in the chat. And is there, in terms of what would you say? Let me just have a quick look at the chat here. Let's see. Okay, so Galen and David both say thank you.
Awesome.
And so what is your piece of advice for someone who well, aside from what you brought up, what's your advice for someone going into this new year
Yeah.
and both on the practice side of things and
Yep.
other, like, overall?
I don't know if this is a popular piece of advice, but this is what I'm going to do, because I noticed that 2020 really took it out of me. Like, I mean, I'm like you said, I'm a passionate guy. I like actually being known as somebody that works hard. Like, that's part of my value system, is being productive. But I don't know if it's just the energy, the news, the election, the people doing this or that or not doing this or that. Like, but it drained me. And so there were days where I go to work and we're seeing patients and I'm just like, oh, I don't know if I can make it through right this week, because it feels heavy, right? And so what I'm going to do over Christmas is we're going to take a week, and or maybe a little bit less than that. I think we're going to be off from like Wednesday through Tuesday around Christmas, right? I'm just going to do nothing. I mean, literally, I'm going to rest. I'm going to try to free my mind, and I'm going to only be thinking about how I'm enjoying this rest and this relaxation. And starting January 1st, it's a new year. I'm going to work hard again. I'm going to be excited about it. I'm going to jump out there and help people get better and feel better. And I don't know if anybody else is like me, but just knowing that I'm going to have a little break before then and I can rest and relax, like, it helps me to prep and get excited for 2021. And so, if that's you, it's like me, I can't wait to just do nothing and take a little bit of a break, right? And rest. And then knowing that on the other side of that, I'm going to enjoy myself again. I'm going to work hard again in 2021. And I'm going to be a little bit more virtual than I've ever been before, because you kind of have to be, right? Everybody has to be. And so where I really enjoyed having a small intimate workshop with my friends and my patients that I really like, right? I'm going to do that on a bigger scale, but online. And I'm going to maybe use some of the resources that we have, so that, I don't have to use my whole time like sitting there in front of a camera. I can use other resources, but it's still about education. It's about virtual, and it's about building that following and constantly giving great content. And I think if you focus on that in 2021, you're going to be a lot better off than if you stick to old ways of marketing.
Awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us. I'm just so happy
It's my
for
pleasure.
you being here and sharing. And how can our listeners find out more about the different things that you're up to, aside from the film that I had with the link I
Sure.
popped in there?
Well, one of the things I'm doing this Saturday actually is a spinal hygiene, what I call a master class. And I'm going to be doing that from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. And that is this Saturday. And so it's a free master class, but we're going to cover everything. So there's some really cool new research coming out. Life University, we're trying to work with them to get some of this. But one of the reasons that chiropractic hasn't been as well known as dentistry for preventing arthritis and preventing degeneration is because we don't have the studies that show, doing these exercises and getting adjusted reduces the risk of spinal degeneration. Like, we kind of know that, we kind of it's just accepted. But now there's new research that comes out that says we can actually through blood samples and urine samples, we can see biomarkers. That biomarkers show us how fast your spine is degenerating. And so we can start with clinical trials that will take people through chiropractic and spinal hygiene exercises, and we can then do blood tests and urine tests to show that we're decreasing those biomarker factors. So that's just one thing I'm super excited about, but I'm going to talk about this Saturday, as well as implementations. So it's going to be really beneficial for a chiropractor, because they'll show you how in 2021 to create that spinal hygiene program in your office without having to touch it or be the person who stands up and talks to everybody, but you just kind of plug in that system and let it go to work for you in your office. But yeah, I'm really excited about that. Any other way, we do have a private Facebook group, Spinal Hygiene Doctors Club, that everybody's welcome to join there as well.
And how can people register for the free masterclass of yours?
Yeah, so I can post the link in here. It's kind of a weird looking little link, but I'll post it there, and I can send it to you if you ever want to send it out or anything with this or with an email. But
Sure.
yeah, so there's a
Certainly.
registration there. Yeah, if they do go to our private Facebook group, or they go to our Spinal Hygiene Doctor Facebook page, then they'll see that I always post the link on there as well.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Tabor. It's always a pleasure talking to you, and appreciate you taking the time to share with our community. And you're such an inspiration, and I love how guided you are, and just really living your passion and speaking your passion, and always be helping many more
Thank
people.
you.
So
That is an honor hearing that coming from you, because you're someone I respect. When I see that people are as consistent as you are over as many years as you've been doing this, like, I have a deep respect for that, because there's sometimes there are people who come and then they go and then they don't stick with it. And I just have a deep respect for everything that you do to be able to help so many practitioners, no matter what you are, not just chiropractors, but other spaces. I truly believe that if our system allowed patients to get more access to natural healthcare, we could really solve a lot of problems. So for you, helping those natural healthcare practitioners to get more of those types, or to reach more of those types of people that need the care, I appreciate that as well, what you're doing.
thank you.
Yeah.
And those of you listening in, definitely click on the link there below. You're getting thank yous from people on the call here today,
Awesome.
live.
Thank you for being here.
And so click on the link below to register for the free masterclass, and that if you would like to be checking that out, or check out the documentary as well. I can't wait to